Here, the separation of powers in the sense there is the clear demarcation of powers between various organs of a state. That means there are three organs of a state, that is executive, legislature, and judiciary. And there is clear separation of powers between these three organs. That is what meant by theory of separation of powers. And in their field, they act independently. Okay, in their respective powers or their respective field, these various organs of a state act independently. That is what meant by the theory of separation of powers. Okay, and under the separation of powers, there are three facts to be known down. That means one is a member or a person should not be a member of more than one organs of a state. Okay, that means a person should not be a member of more than one organs of a state. That means a person can only be a member of any one of these organ. Right? This simply means, a example, we can say that this theory or this fact says that ministers is an example because ministers are executives, they should not be a member of legislature. This is what mean by this first point, that is a person should not be a member of more than one organs of a state. Simply says one person should be a member of any one of these organ only and not more than one. Example is ministers should not be a member of legislature because ministers are executives, so executive should not be a part of legislature. This is what mean by this first point. Okay, this is applicable in US. Why? Because they follow presidential form of government, and this theory is not applicable in Indian context. Why? Because we have parliamentary form of government, and their executives are part of legislatures also. Because in India, ministers are either members of Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. So this fact is not applicable to Indian constitution. That is, a person should not be a member of more than one organ of a state. That is not applicable in India. And this is one of the fact under theory of separation of powers. Okay. And the second fact is that one organ, that is one organ of a state, should not interfere in the work of. That means one organ of the state should not control the other organ. Should not control other organ. This simply says, we can say that, for example, the parliament should not control ministers. Parliament should not regulate or control ministers because ministers are executives. This is what mean by the second point, that is one organ should not control or regulate the other organ because all powers are clearly demarcated and they work independently, right? So at that time, one organ, say example, legislature should not make a control over executive. This is what meant by the second point under theory of separation of powers, right? And the third point says that one organ of a state should not exercise the powers of other organ. That means one organ, say example, executives should not do the work of legislatures, right? Say example, we can say that ministers should not be involved in law making, right? Because ministers are executives and the law making is the duty of legislature. So this third point says that one organ of a state should not do or exercise the functions or powers of other organ. Example, we can say ministers should not involve in law making. Okay, so these are the 3 points or facts under the concept called theory of separation of powers. I repeat once again. One is, a person should not be a member of more than one organs of a state, right? Means a person should not be a member of both or three of these organs of a state. But in India, it is not possible. Why? Because in India, our ministers are also part of legislature. So here this separation is not possible in India. But in US, it is possible because the executives are not part of legislature in US Constitution, right? And second point says that the one organ of a state should not regulate or control the other organs of a state. Simple example is, this theory means parliament or the legislature should not regulate or control executives or ministers. That is what meant by the second point. Okay. Third point under separation of powers says that one organ of a state should not do or exercise the functions or powers of other organ. Simply saying, executives should not do the work of legislature, or legislature should not do the work of judiciary, or judiciary should not do the work of executive. Likewise, because the powers are clearly demarcated and they should work independently in their own field. Example, we can say that ministers who are executives should not be involved in law making. Why? Because law making is the duty of legislatures. So these are all the concepts behind this theory, separation of powers. And the purpose of this separation of power is to prevent the government from becoming authoritarian. Prevent the state from becoming authoritarian. Because why? Because if all those powers are concentrated in a single hands or a very simple group of persons or a single institutions, then that state or government become more authoritarian. So to prevent the concentration of powers in a single hands only, this concept is made available there. Okay. Otherwise, what happen? Say example, if executive powers or legislative powers or judiciary powers, if all these powers are concentrated in a single institution or a very group of people, that government will become more authoritarian. So to prevent that only, this concept is introduced called theory of separation of powers. Now what happened here? The powers are distinguished. Some powers are given to some state, some organ, some powers given to other, the other powers are given to other organs of the state, so that there won't be any authoritarian government. That means all powers will not be concentrated under a single hands, right? That's the purpose of this theory of separation of powers. Okay, and please remember that this theory of separation of powers cannot be fully implemented, cannot be strictly implemented in its true sense. Why? Because we cannot say that all times the theory of separation of powers work in its full spirit. Okay, so at that time there arose another concept called theory of checks and balances. This is nothing but, say example, if one organ of a state, say example executive, just imagine if executive is exercising more powers or it is trying to becoming more authoritative. Okay, at that time what happened means the other organs of a state, let it be legislature or judiciary, will make a control over executive from becoming or from exercising more powers. Let me see, one organ of a state is doing more powers or becoming more authoritative. At that time, the other organs will make a check or will prevent this body from becoming more powerful. That is what meant by theory of checks and balances. We'll give an example. Say example, see, we know that legislature is empowered to make laws. Say example, Parliament of India. Okay, and executives are entrusted to implement these laws. Executive in the sense we can say ministers. Okay, president is also a part of executive. Okay, and judiciary, look into the legality of laws. Okay, because judiciary checks whether the law is valid or not. So these are all the powers allocated to these three organs of a state or government. Okay, and if sometimes if one organ become more powerful or more authoritative, at that time the other organs will prevent that concerned organ from becoming more powerful. Example, say example, Parliament is empowered to make laws. Parliament is empowered to make laws. And India, we know that if a law is passed by the Parliament, by Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, then president has to give assent. Assent in the sense, give sign to that bill. Then only what will happen? The bill will become an act. That means after all the duly legislative procedure, the president has to give assent to that concerned bill. Then only that bill will become an act. So now you suppose you imagine that the parliament makes some laws which is against the provisions of constitution or which is arbitrary laws. Say so this parliament is exercising more powers. Just imagine. At that time we can what option left is that president, who is the head of executive. See, parliament is a legislative body. It is empowered to make laws for the land. Okay. And if parliament is making excessive laws or trying to increase its powers, then president can withhold that bill. That means president can use his veto power. So when the president withhold that bill, the bill will not become an act. That bill will end at that time itself. That means here the executive, that is president, tries to prevent the parliament from becoming more authoritative. This is one example of checks and balances. We'll give you another example. Again, parliament make laws. Okay, just you imagine if president gives sign. So what happened? Bill become an act. Okay, now what we can say is that there is another organ called judiciary. Judiciary is the interpreter of the constitution, and judiciary checks into the legality of the laws made by the parliament or other duties of executive. Okay. Now, if the judiciary feels that parliament is trying to make laws arbitrarily, then judiciary can strike down that act as unconstitutional. Here what happened is an organ of the state, that is judiciary, prevent the other organ of the state, that is parliament or legislature, from becoming more powerful or authoritarian. So these are all the examples of checks and balances. We'll give one more example. We say example judges, that is for part of judiciary. If judges are becoming more powerful, or if judges act or do their duties in more authoritative manner, at that time what happen means parliament, which is a legislature, has the power to remove Supreme Court judges and also High Court judges. Judges of both Supreme Court and High Court. That means the parliament, that is legislative body of our country, has the power to remove the members of judicial office. Here what happened is parliament is checking or preventing the excessive powers of members of judiciary. So in all these manners, legislature, executive and judiciary make a checks and balances from preventing the other organ from becoming more powerful. This is what mean by checks and balances. So this is moreover applicable to the Indian context. Okay, rather than clear separation of powers to the Indian context, this is checks and balances is more applicable. Okay, so this is the mains question which I have shown you before. So by analyzing all these things, you have to answer to that question. Okay, so I repeat, checks and balances nothing but when one organ tries to improve or increase its powers or becoming more authoritative, the other organs make a check on it or prevent this concerned organ from becoming more authoritative. So there exists a balance between these three organs of the state, that is executive, legislature and judiciary. Example, I said that parliament is about to make laws, and if the parliament is trying to become more powerful, what happened is the president, who is a part of executive, can withhold that bill. If the president withhold, then the bill will not become an act. So here what happened is executive have a control over the parliament. And suppose if you imagine the president give assent to the bill and bill become an act. Now there has one more organ called judiciary. Now judiciary look into the legality of the laws, and if it is found illegal, then judiciary can strike down that concerned act as unconstitutional. Then also that act will not be taken into place. Okay, here what happened is judiciary putting a check or preventing the parliament from becoming more authoritative. It's just a checks and balances. Third example, if members of judiciary, that is judges are exercising more powers or judges are acting more authoritatively, at that time parliament can remove those judges. Here the parliament, that is legislature, making a control over the judiciary. So within these three organs, that is executive, legislature and judiciary, there exists a proper balance for the smooth functioning of our country, right? So these are the two theories, that is theory of separation of powers and theory of checks and balances. Theory of separation of power is not fully applicable in India. It is somewhat applicable in US constitution, because US followed a presidential form of government, and India we follow parliamentary form of government. In parliamentary form of government, executives, that is ministers, are also part of legislature, but in US executives are not part of legislature. Okay, and moreover this checks and balance is applicable in the context, because there exists a proper balance between these three organs of the state, that is executive, legislature and judiciary. Okay,